Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We're just getting set up here. Give me a second. I had things to do before. And some new setup. So bear with me. And then also I'll wait for you because not all of you come just on time. And I want to adjust this a little bit. So, yes. Okay. Hope it's not too dark. Hold on a second. We'll make it lighter a little bit. Special lighting. It's called sunshine. So, yes. Okay. I'm using a different computer, so the article we were reading yesterday, I may not have it. So, Gurnish just sent it to me, and I may have it backed up. So just give me a second. Excuse me, I'm so not dissatisfaction. I have it. My computer is being repaired, and I was given a Mac, so I'm using a Mac and learning how to use it. And also, there's some interesting verses in the Gita that we haven't yet studied, and I wanted to look at those verses. There's verses where it uses the word antar, and unfortunately, I'm not sure where they are. I was reading them a few weeks ago. So, sorry, I've got like a million things going on, and I'm not entirely prepared. This was very last minute. So I would like to begin by reading those verses because it gives a very interesting description of how Krishna sees happiness. I just have to find... No, I'm not going to find it. Okay. I'm not going to find it through the means I was thinking. Can you turn the volume up? Oh, yeah. Sorry. Krishna Chaitanya. Let me see. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta. Is that better? I'm using a different system. So I can record while I'm talking to you with one mic. So, is that better? Yeah, I think the sound was lower. Let me see. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, that should be alright, right? Krishna Chaitanya, yes? Let me know if the sound is okay. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Now, if it's not okay, let me know, yes? I'm using a very good system. It should sound super transcendental, fantastic, stupendous, amazing. And if it doesn't, let me know. And if you have most of us listen on our phones or computers. We don't listen on speakers. If you actually listen on speakers, it would sound quite good, I think. I hope. Yes? Okay, yes, better. All right. There's a word Krishna uses in several verses. The word is antar. Antar means within. And I'm just trying to see if I can locate those verses by going to the index. And no, it's not here. I have a feeling it's in the 5th chapter. And so I'm just going to breeze through it and see if I can find it. But it would be very relevant and very pleasing to read those verses. Yes. Anyway, I would read, I don't know if these are the verses. This is chapter 5, text 21. But I just wanted to read a few verses to kind of summarize what we've been talking about in terms of pleasure within. And, yeah. Bhaya sparshesh vasaktatma vindati atmani yat sukham sabrahma yoga yuktatma sukham akshayam ashnute. Well, let's read the verse before. Naprari shet priyam prapya nodvijate prapya cha priyam stirabudhir sammudho brahmavid brahmani stita. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon attaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is to be understood as already situated in transcendence. And so this verse, the next verse I just read, talks about this person. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure or external objects, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. Vindati atmani yatsukam. Atmani means within, in the self. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. So this is kind of the pivotal point of what we're talking about and what we understand intellectually, but we're not so good at practicing. The next verse, well, this verse, it's just saying that there's two kinds of pleasure. Sense pleasure comes from external objects, and then pleasure that comes from the self, because the self is Satchidananda. Then the next verse, Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukam yonaya evate adyantamanta konteya na teshu ramate buddha. That's text 22, chapter 5. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, so the wise man does not delight in them. So, it's interesting, Krishna, and Krishna consciousness, it turns everything around, so what we think it isn't. So Krishna here is saying, sense pleasure. Sense pleasure for us, or for material consciousness, sense pleasure is everything. You can stimulate your senses, that means life is good, you're happy, you want to live and enjoy. And Krishna says here, samsparsaja. Samsparsaja means when the senses contact the sense objects. So that's basically the goal of material life, is to get the right sense with the right sense object. And if you get the, like vision, if you see something, we visited a place, it was beautiful, it was amazing, or I saw this movie, it was amazing, or get the ear to hear, go into nature, hear beautiful sounds, hear beautiful music, like that, smell, and so forth. So material life means your senses operate well, and your senses should get the right, get in alignment with the objects that gratify you. Basically, isn't that material enjoyment? That's what it is. The right food, the right vision, the right touch, the right feel, the right smell, the right hearing, right seeing. And so then Krishna says, dukkha jonaya evate. Dukkha, as you know, means distress. And he's saying, this is the source of distress. So it's kind of interesting, because the very things which we think are the causes of enjoyment, Krishna is saying they're the causes of distress. You find that interesting? I find it interesting. It's backwards. Hey, so when you become a devotee, and then your friends say, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And what do you say? You say, no, I'm not interested. Right? Isn't that what you say? You're supposed to say that. You know, friends who aren't devotees, or even friends who think they're devotees but aren't devotees. Or at least they're devotees but they don't always act like devotees. So you're supposed to say, if you're advanced in Krishna consciousness, you say no, and then they say, well, why don't you want to do that? And you say, because it doesn't bring me any pleasure. And they're like, oh, you're a party pooper, what's wrong with you? But that's a symptom. So what brings one pleasure, it's actually Krishna saying, is a source of misery. And there's another significant thing that Krishna says. Very interesting. He said, Prabhupada says in a purport, you see, if you feel that materially you're happy, that becomes an impediment to your Krishna consciousness. It becomes an impediment to your self-realization. If you feel happy materially, so in some purport, I forget where in the Gita, Prabhupada says the feeling of enjoyment that you get materially is the ultimate enemy of self-realization, because, as we've been saying, none of us would be in Krishna consciousness if we could actually enjoy the material world. We would have no reason. Oh, you're going to get old and die. That's okay, I'll come back again, do it again. But, you could go back to Godhead and enjoy with God. Yeah, but that's too much trouble. I'm fine here. So, the more we're fine here, the more that, in Prabhupada's words, that feeling of pleasure, that feeling of happiness becomes the enemy to sense gratification. Enemy to self-realization. So everybody's trying to enjoy, and in Prabhupada's words, what we're trying to enjoy ultimately is becoming the cause of our unhappiness. Isn't that interesting? Do you find that interesting, ladies and gentlemen? I find it interesting. Think about it. The pleasure we derive in this world is the enemy. That's amazing. The world is like you can't win. The very thing that you enjoy is actually uprooting your Krishna consciousness. It's uprooting your Krishna consciousness, unfortunately. So Krishna calls it the connection, which we call enjoyment. He calls it sources of misery. And you might say, but I don't feel miserable. I feel pretty good. Okay, well, let's look at it this way. What is Krishna saying? This is one of the biggest problems in the material world, is that the more you enjoy something, the more attached you get to it. Yes? Like there's certain foods we're attached to we could never give up, or there's certain things that bring us enjoyment which we could never give up, right? So the more we enjoy, the more we become attached. The more it causes pain, the more we become detached. So the problem, one of the problems that Krishna is describing here, because the next line he says, Antavanta Adyantavanta Konteyana Teshu Ramate Buddha. He's saying, okay, here's the problem. They don't last. So whatever pleasure you get, it's not going to last. And now, as good as it was, you have to come down. And when you come down, it's kind of depressing. I think I told you in a previous class that people who have done very exciting things in their lives, they become depressed when they can't do those exciting things. If you've ridden a 50-foot wave, it's so it's so amazing. And how often are there 50-foot waves that you can ride? Not often. So what do you do the rest of the year? Kind of depressed. That was such a high. So there's a beginning and an end, and then the end causes depression. And the paradox of it all is the more you enjoy it, the more you miss it when it's gone. When it's over, the more you suffer. I remember, I don't know if I told you this story. This is just like Material World 101 basics. And this, of course, is very basic, but I think it's good to go over some basics sometimes. So this class can be called Material World 101 Basics. So, when I was young, during Easter vacation, which was a week, my friend and I, we went out every day. I don't know how old I was, maybe like 11 or 10, or I wasn't, 9. And so for us growing up, everywhere we went on our bicycles. It was just, it was a different era. It was safe. We didn't have phones. My parents didn't worry. 10-year-old kids gone all day in Los Angeles. And we would ride our bikes about, a good 3 miles. We'd go to a place, what was it called? I forget. It was kind of a farmer's market, restaurants, and it was across from CBS Studios. It's a big television station. It was a happening place in Los Angeles, and we would spend the whole day there. And every day we'd ride our bikes there, and we'd ride our bikes back. And we'd have this amazing time. And so when the week was over, Sunday night, I remember this. Isn't it interesting how you remember things? Just something. When I was 8 or 9 years old, I remember. So Sunday night, obviously school starting on Monday. And I had such a good time that week that Sunday night I was laying in bed crying. I couldn't stop crying because I had to go to school. Isn't that interesting? I think this perfectly exemplifies what Krishna is saying. It has a beginning and an end, and when it ends, as good as the better it is, the more you suffer when it ends. So because I had such a good time, I was suffering tremendously. Because I didn't want to go to school. I just wanted to continue having a good time. Isn't that interesting? So it's like you can't win. And so if I would have had a bad time, I probably would have been looking forward to going to school. So this vacation was horrible. Now I'm back in school. All my friends are there. We're going to have a good time. Isn't that, you find that interesting? Isn't it? So, okay, we're going to enjoy. You have a great relationship. And today, I don't know in your country, but statistics in America, 50% of married men at some point during their marriage cheat on their wives. About 25% of women cheat on their husbands, and that's just what's reported. This does not include people who are living together who are not married, as far as I know. Or you could say, let's just say 1 out of 2 men is going to cheat on his wife. 1 out of 4 women is going to cheat on their husband or have some kind of relationship at some point with a man. The better that relationship is, the more it hurts when that happens. Isn't it? If you don't really like your wife, whatever, do whatever you want, I don't care. Marry the guy, leave me, it's fine. Isn't it? Sometimes it's like that. You don't care. Or she doesn't care about the husband. Yeah, you're a jerk anyway. Who cares? Or he doesn't care. Go with that guy. You deserve him. He'll drive you crazy. You deserve it. Or go drive that guy crazy. I'm tired of you. But if you have a very good relationship, it's very close, intimate, you're very attached. It's something you really enjoy. And it's helping you in your life and something you're attached to, then if that happens, it's devastating. Isn't it? It's totally devastating. So you can't win. And if you say, but that doesn't happen to me, or I'm too smart for that to happen. Okay, you're too smart. Not smart enough to not die. So then it's taken away at death. So you lose it at some point. So the last line of this verse, Krishna says, Na teshu ramate buddha. Those who are Buddha means intelligent, like Lord Buddha. Buddha also means enlightened. So you could say, those who are enlightened, those who are intelligent, they don't take pleasure in these things. They take pleasure in the spiritual. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for an intelligence test. On a continuum of 1 to 10, with 10 being intelligent and 1 being not intelligent, based on this verse, that we don't we don't take part in the sources of misery, things which have pleasures which have a beginning and end, and the previous verse, bias parseshas saktatma, we have the intelligence to understand that these things cause misery. So 10 would be, you perfectly understand that sense gratification is miserable, and 1 would be, you haven't got it yet. So now you can grade yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. And if you give yourself a 10, congratulations, that means you're very Krishna conscious. And the symptom of that 10 is you're detached. And you take pleasure in hearing and chanting about Krishna. You actually like to chant Hare Krishna. What's wrong with you? You like to chant? I thought nobody likes to chant Hare Krishna, and you like to chant Hare Krishna. Wow, I'd like to be like you. That's amazing. Yeah. There are devotees who relish chanting Hare Krishna. There are devotees who only derive their pleasure from hearing and chanting, serving, taking prasadam, of course, in association. That's where we get our pleasure. So, Krishna is saying the intelligent understand this. All right, so now we can see how intelligent we are. Right. Now, here's the trick, or here's the subtlety of it. And I think this is a common problem that we're all facing. That we may externally with our body detach, but we don't detach within our mind. So we still meditate on the thing which we give up. Now, if you want to be really strict and really heavy, you could say that meditating on sense gratification is the same as doing it. And now you're going to say, no, Prabhu, but I read in Shastra it says it isn't. Well, didn't actually say it isn't. What it said is you don't get the reaction. But in terms of its effect, you get the effect. If we meditate on sense gratification, there is an effect on our consciousness. Definitely, you can't say there's no effect. If I give up something and I don't do it with my body, that's good. Definitely that's good, and that should continue. But if I meditate upon it in my consciousness, that will affect me negatively. And possibly, if I meditate on it too much, I'm going to do it. But let's say, for the sake of discussion, I don't do it. Don't think because there's no sinful reaction, it's not polluting you. It is. And it also indicates that if I'm meditating on it, then I'm still conditioned by that desire. And it also, that's obvious, and it also indicates that I don't understand. I still don't understand that this is a source of misery. So we were saying in the last class, if you don't understand, Krishna will help you understand. And how will he help you understand? He'll create misery. He'll create enough misery from that relationship or relationship with that sense object that you will get it someday. You'll get, okay, I get it. I keep thinking this will be enjoyment. Krishna goes, whap, whap. Sometimes just by thinking about it, you'll get slapped in the face. Now Krishna, if he's kind to you, he'll make sure that you'll have experiences which will show you that you shouldn't meditate on this, you should just forget it. So we did a course on commitment, and what's interesting about commitment is that what's supposed to happen when you understand something is you commit to it. And what's supposed to happen when you commit, if you really commit, is you stop thinking about it. Not that you just stop doing it, but you stop thinking about it. So we could say, I think we can safely say that if I'm committed to something, but I'm not committed within my mind, I still meditate on it, that means I'm not entirely committed. At least I could be more committed. I've committed the body, but I have to commit the mind and the heart, so I'm finished with it. Now, you might say, we're conditioned souls, and therefore these desires, maybe we're suppressing them, or these desires are residing within us and we can't just give them up all of a sudden. That's true. At the same time, the power of commitment is such that if you commit to not doing something deeply enough, it has a psychological effect to chasten you mentally. So meditate on that. Am I scale of 1 to 10? How committed am I to the things that I have committed myself to, so-called? To my japa, to my regulative principles, to my relationships, to my service. How committed am I? Not on the physical level, but internally. Like we say and we see that sometimes a devotee will say, when I chant japa, I go to my temple room, I close the door, turn off the phone, no distractions. Then I say, but is your phone on in your mind? Is the door open in your mind? Are you somewhere else in your mind? And devotees will say, sometimes yes. Or some devotees will say, all the time yes. So you've created it externally, that's good. And you should do that. But you have to create it internally. And just because we create it externally doesn't mean we've created it internally. Of course, that's more difficult to create it internally. But it's something to meditate on. And so, I've given it up externally. Krishna's saying, if you're smart, Buddha, then you won't ramate. Ramate means enjoy. You won't take enjoyment in these things. Okay, you might say, okay, I don't take an enjoyment in these things. Then I'll say, if you think about it, you do. Because why do you think about it? To get enjoyment from the mind, because the mind's a sense. So you think about it. I can't do it, but if I think about it, I can enjoy it. There are places where Prabhupada says, thinking about it is the same as doing it. He said that, but as I said, there's no sinful reaction. But basically, it's the same as doing it, and Lord Jesus Christ said, you lust at a woman, it's the same as committing adultery. Of course, Mahaprabhu is merciful, but at least for ourself and our self-evaluation, if we accept that if I think this, it's really the same as doing it, I probably wouldn't think it. But if I think it's not the same as doing it, and there's no sinful reaction, then I kind of feel like, well, I'm thinking about it, but I'm not doing it, so it's okay. It's more okay than doing it, but it's not okay. Strictly speaking, it's not okay. That's what Prabhupada said. That's not my words. I'm going to go back because we have some comments or questions. And sometimes I see the questions coming up, but I don't address them because I'm making a point. Okay. Clinton says, basically it is controlling the mind because it is, practically speaking, the material body requires demands to be met, which are always miserable as the demands have to enter through the senses. Yeah, so if you want to avoid the misery, what does Krishna say? Regulate the senses. So, not too much, not too little. You do it at certain times. You're not unrestricted. That's the whole point. Prabhupada uses this word unrestricted sense gratification. So senses need gratification, right? Definitely. You like pakoras, right? Okay, 20 pakoras or 1? There's a story we heard. Devotees like eating 3 sweet balls, and Prabhupada said, 1 is good, 3 is lust. So remember that, ladies and gentlemen, the next time you eat 3 sweet balls, the lust meter is going into the red. So, okay, eat a sweet ball. All right, fine. Get on with it. So, regulation, that's important. And then, so Krishna's saying, if it's regular, you won't suffer. Okay, a little bit. I need a little bit. Regulate it this time of day, I do this and that. I was listening to a lecture yesterday, and the devotee made a really good point. He was talking about criticism. And whenever you talk about criticism, if you say don't criticize, then someone will raise their hand, Prabhu, don't we need to do constructive criticism? So that question always comes up. And this devotee made a very good point. He said, the real thing is, do you enjoy criticizing? Constructive or not constructive, blasphemous, gossip, whatever it is. It could be constructive, it could be, if it's gossip and blasphemous, okay, that's pretty clear that You like to criticize. You have a problem with that. You can't control it. But constructive, no, it's just constructive. This person has a problem, I want to help him. Prabhupada said, to be a guru is a thankless task because you have to criticize, and no Vaishnava wants to criticize. So if we enjoy criticizing, even if it's to help people, that's a problem, isn't it? Then it's out of balance, right? So it's like anything can go out of balance. All right, maybe I have a propensity to criticize. If you have a propensity to criticize, I could give you some good advice. Don't become anyone's authority, because you'll take advantage of it. You'll enjoy it, and you'll drive everyone crazy. So, the person qualified to be an authority, whether it's guru or any authority, even mother, father, is they don't enjoy criticizing. So if they do it very carefully, only when absolutely necessary and done in a way that will help. That will help that person, right? So it's the same thing with any kind of necessity that the body requires. It's not that you're doing it because you think this is going to give me enjoyment. You're doing it because you think this will satisfy me in a way in which now I can focus on my service and by hearing and chanting. Right? That's all. If you don't sleep enough, you can't focus. If you don't eat enough, you can't focus. If you don't have the right relationships, you can't focus. If you don't have the right living situation, you can't focus. So it's not that you build a house with 45 rooms so you can enjoy yourself in a different room every day. No, you build a house which is sufficient to keep you comfortable so you can serve. Now, there's another point, which I find interesting. I don't know if you'll all agree, but this is my observation. You could define what is renounced and what is not renounced. Or you could define it relatively. Now, I have friends that were raised in great wealth. And so, for them, like a 2,000 square foot home, I don't know if you all think in square feet. If you don't, just divide it by 3 and that'll be square meters. I think square foot. There's 9 square feet, right? Divide by 9, excuse me. There's 9 square feet in a square meter. A square yard, yeah, divide by 9. So, if you're raised in a wealthy family like these devotees are, a 2,000 square foot home, which is big enough for a family of 4, is your vacation home. That's just your vacation home. And your vacation home is probably nicer than most people's homes. And your home is like, it's 4,000, 5,000 square feet. And like big, huge bedrooms. Your closet is like as big as a brahmachari ashram. I'm serious. We were in a house in South Africa, and the closet, like you could sleep like 5 men in it. They have a brahmachari ashram here, and they have small rooms for single men can have his own room. And our closet in South Africa, in Johannesburg, is twice the size of those rooms. So for you, that's normal. And for a Bengali villager, little hut, that's normal. So if I put you in a hut, you're going to be like disturbed. And if you're very wealthy and I put you in a 2,000 square foot home, you'll say, Prabhu, this is nice, but it's a little austere for me. And if you're the Bengali villager, that's a palace, right? So sometimes what we need is relative to our previous conditioning. And so the 2,000 square foot house, for you is an austerity, for the Bengali villager, it's heaven. So it affects us differently. So that's why I'm saying in some cases, there's not always an absolute standard, and therefore you might see a devotee who has a lot of opulence, but he's not affected by it because that's just normal for him. So, something to consider, like what's normal for you. And so the point is get to 0, and when you're at 0, now you can peacefully serve Krishna. So that 0 is not sense gratification, it's just normal. It's just, this is what I need. This is what I need to do my service. Like, For you, a Mac is normal. You can't work on a PC. Macs are more expensive. They're better computers, I think. So for you, that's normal. And PCs are that's super austere. For someone else, PC is fantastic. It's wonderful. Okay, so that's normal for you. You take that. But in either case, it's not sense gratification. Does that make sense? I'm sure all this is obvious to you all, but I just think... yeah, so now Clinton says, we have to do tapasya to enjoy spiritually. So this is the other paradox, in which you deprive your senses, you do something which makes your body uncomfortable, which of course is not the object of materialistic people. The sun is piercing through. Hold on a second. I just have to adjust the light. You know, the goal of material life is to be comfortable, right? If you get a nice car, you're comfortable. And in Krishna consciousness, we do tapasya. And tapasya makes you happy. Bodily inconvenience makes you happy. This doesn't make sense. Do some fasting. It'll make, no, Prabhu, fasting makes me miserable. Ultimately, anything which purifies your senses will make you happy. Yes or yes, it will make you happy. And so Krishna is saying, sense gratification doesn't work. It never did, it never will. But tapasya works. That actually makes you happy. What a paradox, what a contradiction. You know, go into any store, it's all about, are the clothes comfortable? Is the chair comfortable? Are the shoes comfortable? Does that watch feel okay on your wrist? Is it comfortable? Isn't it? It's a big question. When you buy something that's going to touch your body, is it comfortable? Isn't it? It's a big, no, Prabhu, I bought these shoes, they have nails in them. Tapasya shoes. They're really good and they make me happy to watch. They're not comfortable at all. Actually, they're cutting my feet. Of course, we don't do austerity unless it's going to purify us unnecessarily. But when you do austerity in Krishna service, you feel blissful. You feel better than you could ever feel by doing sense gratification. Isn't that amazing? So that's what Krishna calls buddha. If you understand that, you're smart, you're intelligent. If you don't understand that, you may have an IQ of 185 or whatever, 200, whatever the highest IQ is, 215. Albert Einstein, what did he have? Anybody know? Albert Einstein's IQ, 235. Does it go that high? So you may have super IQ, super high IQ, right? But Krishna says, if you don't understand this, you are not intelligent. Right? That's why sometimes we get confused. We say women are less intelligent. What does that mean? It means women in general are more attached to material enjoyment. They're more attached to decorating the body, looking good, enjoying material comforts. So Krishna is saying that's less intelligent. When they become devotees, they understand that tapasya is necessary, that material sense gratification is not the goal of life. Then they become intelligent. They become the most intelligent. There's a Krishna, what does intelligence mean? Well, you want to know what it means? Verse 22, Bhagavad-gita, chapter 5, Krishna says, when you understand material enjoyment is a source of misery and you don't engage in it, you're intelligent. So, now, going back to that example of the rich person and the poor person, for the rich person, what might be high level of sense gratification, for the poor person, it's not sense gratification. It doesn't affect him that way. It's just, like I said, it's just normal. So he's not polluted or contaminated by it. Isn't that interesting? Do you find that interesting? So it's about how it affects you. That's the point. Okay? Is that okay? Okay, I have to see what else has been said. Clinton's saying, is it not that because material things are temporary that one enjoys more? I mean, one tries to enjoy more because they only last for a certain period of time. Get it while you can. Make hay while the sun shines. Enjoy, you only live once. Yeah. Hey, I only live once. I'm 67. The average lifespan now in America for men is 79. If that's true, I have 12 years. I only have 12 more years to enjoy. I better get moving. Make my fortune. Build my dream house by the beach. Time's running out. So if that's what you're asking, yes. Until you become smart. Sound is fuzzy and breaking up. Is that true for anybody else? Interference. Yes, fuzzy sound. Oh no. What to do? Still fuzzy? What to do when a couple comes from different economical backgrounds? That's a whole other question. Okay, before I proceed, I would like to know if the sound is fuzzy. We had this problem last week. I think it's like computers are interfacing and things are kind of going crazy because the sound is fuzzy. We have to do something about it. We have to defuzz it. So okay. Why is a poor person proud of their penny? Because everybody's proud, and you need to be proud of something. The point is, if you're proud, you'll be proud of anything, even if it's not worth being proud of. Still fuzzy. Okay, Radhika says it's still fuzzy. Okay. Clinton says it's good. Radhika says it's fuzzy. It could be little fuzzy, but not bad. It could be my internet connection is going in and out. White noise appears sometimes. I think that's all the internet connection. Somehow, I don't know why. Should I bring the connection close? Now tell me if this is better or worse. I've got this new Samsung phone and it might be putting out some very strong something. So just let me know. Bringing it closer could make it worse. Fuzzy from time to time, yeah. It's good, yeah. I think it's the connection. Sound is good at the moment. No, not the mic. It's a $300 mic. And it's $300 interface. Just not the mic or the interface. It's I think it's the internet. But it's being recorded just in case you miss anything. Well, let's, yeah, this was never a problem before. We have to isolate it. Proud to be a devotee? Yeah. Be proud. You are proud. You are fortunate. Just don't get puffed up. Yeah, you can be proud. You can have all emotions. We're not denying emotions. I'm proud to be a follower of Srila Prabhupada. Aren't you proud of that? I'm proud my godbrothers have done so much amazing service. But being proud and being puffed up in that sense is different. So, can you be proud and not puffed up? Yeah, right. Oh, I found the verses. Everyone give me applause. I just didn't come to the verse. I was 3 verses ahead of it. So I still know Bhagavad-gita. I haven't forgot it yet. Okay, here's these verses which are so interesting. This is verse 24, 5th chapter. Yonta sukan taradma yo yonta shukon tararamas tatantar jyotir evadya sayogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhuta tigachati. One whose happiness is within, who is active within, who rejoices within, and is illumined within is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. Okay, so when we talk to non-devotees, we are always talking about external pleasure, won't make you happy, internal pleasure will. Here's the verses of Bhagavad-gita. But now, look at how many times this word antar is used. Antar is within. We go to the word meanings. Ya, one who antar sukha, happy from within. Anta arama, active within. And rama it also means pleasure. So, active within. Isn't that interesting? Antar Rama. So if we take Rama, Arama, Anta, Arama, he's active within. What does that mean? He's not active without. He's active within. How to be happy? Be active within. That means that I think active within, we can apply it to the other verse. You're not active exploring sense gratification, but you're active cultivating your spiritual life, hearing, chanting, contemplating. You can get so much pleasure contemplating Krishna consciousness. Do you know that? You can derive so much happiness contemplating Krishna consciousness. It's amazing. Just talking about Krishna. So we can say that's being active within, contemplating. What does this mean? What does this mean? What did Prabhupada mean by this and that? Contemplating pastimes, philosophical points, chanting japa, all this, being active within. So, and then finding your happiness. Where's your happiness located? Outside of you or inside of you? So you're churning the ocean in Krishna consciousness. You're churning it in order to find the happiness within. So we have Antasukho, Antaramas, and then Antarjoti, aiming within. And Jyoti means light. So this is really interesting. Krishna is using the word Rama for active and Jyoti for aiming within, because Jyoti is light. So it's like, in this sense, it's like a beam. He's Antarjoti, he's aiming within. It's like, I'm not going out to find happiness, I'm doing it within. So, this verse kind of summarizes what we've been discussing. One whose happiness is within, who is active within, who rejoices within, and is illumined within. So, Prabhupada, active within. He's active and rejoices. He's using, for the word Orama, he's using active and rejoices. And he's adding Jyoti, aiming within, and then here, illumined within. So it's lighting up. Jyoti is lighting up. He's the perfect mystic. He's liberated, and ultimately he attains the supreme. Okay, so that's the verse I wanted to read to you. 524. We can call that the internal verse. Is that okay? So now, that was the introduction. That was kind of a long introduction, since it took about an hour almost. I wanted to read some things from this document that we have been reading from. This is from the, I don't know if we read this, but on the announcement, okay, we have a question. I'm still thinking about the post you made not so long ago, being inspired by certain services. Clarification about Dharma. Is there a connection with Sanskrit? Yeah. Because, Radhika's asking, is there a connection, like, here's the scale. If I'm not inspired in my service, let's do the scale this way. I'm not inspired in my service. My right hand, this hand, well, to you it looks left. I'm not inspired in my service. That goes down. The desire for sense gratification naturally goes up because we're looking for happiness, inspiration. I'm inspired in my service. Naturally, my desire for sense gratification goes down because I'm not looking for, I don't need it. No. Right? So yes, I think we had talked about that last time, or the time before. The importance of being happy in Krishna consciousness can never be overstated, because if we're not, See, the problem is, as conditioned souls, the only way we know how to enjoy is through the body. That's just how we spontaneously think of enjoyment. And that's why anytime the senses contact the sense objects, the lights go off and it registers as, that will make me happy. That's happiness, right? So if you don't have anything in your life to disprove that no, that's not happiness. Chanting my japa was so amazing, that was happiness. Or this service I'm doing is so ecstatic, that's what happiness is, not this, which my mind is saying this is happiness. So that's why it's important. But if you don't have that as a comparison, then what do you know as happiness? Nothing. And that's why when someone gives up Krishna consciousness, they go out in the material world, sometimes for us it's just inconceivable that they would engage in material activities having known and relished Krishna consciousness on such a deep level. So what happened? They gave up the practice, there's no more experience of that ecstasy, and then the only thing we know is the body and mind to enjoy. So naturally that's what they do. So if you don't have that to counterbalance it, then what are you going to do? Right? So, if you speak to a devotee, let's say you hadn't seen a devotee in a long time, and you say, what are you doing? And, and the devotee's describing all these things that they do, which are just forms of material enjoyment, then you can immediately understand they probably aren't chanting their rounds, or if they are, they're certainly not relishing. They're probably not chanting well. And they're probably not reading Bhagavatam and probably not associating much. Because if they were, why would they be relishing this and that and that and that? Does that make sense? I mean, some of those desires may be very conditioned, so even if they are good devotees, they still may be conditioned to enjoy those things. But it would be more contained. It wouldn't be as strong as in this example I'm giving. It's like a person's very absorbed in material things. Why? What's going on here? So that would be a symptom of not relishing, not just Krishna consciousness, but just not relishing, not just your service and your dharma, but just not relishing Krishna consciousness in general. So all of us should learn to relish Krishna consciousness. That's something that's very important. That's something we're supposed to be doing. It's not wrong. It's actually what we're supposed to be doing. We should. Bhagavatam is written for those who want to relish nectar. That's who it's written for. So Rasik Vaishnava means one who relishes the nectar, the rasa of Krishna consciousness. And that's what we're meant to do. And so if you're always talking about Krishna relishing discussions, going more deeply into Krishna conscious topics, going more deeply into your japa, going more deeply into your service, going more deeply into meditating and executing plans for spreading Krishna consciousness, you're good. Then sense enjoyment, it's not going to really bother you because in comparison, it's not much. Nothing can compare to the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness. I don't care what it is you do, you have the best of this or the best of that, it still can't compare. But if you don't do it, then naturally you're going to be allured by it. It's just an unfortunate reality of our conditioned nature. And the thing is, we may not like it, but it's just the way we are. And even though we've been devotees a long time, we don't become completely free of these contaminations. They're subtle, but they're still there, even on the stage of bhava. It's only on the stage of prema where we become completely free. Because offenses to the holy name, offenses to Vaishnavas, we don't become entirely free of those till prema, and those have effects on us. They just do. And part of the effect is that we become influenced by our conditioning. So, Prabhupada says that in many places, one who's relishing Krishna consciousness has no taste. And we saw that in Prabhupada's presence. We're just a bunch of young devotees, young boys and girls, and we're dancing in ecstasy, we're going out in Sankirtan in ecstasy, and somehow or other we totally renounce the world. So how do we do that? It was only by the ecstasy. Otherwise our conditioned nature was such it wouldn't let us do that. Right? You agree? Do you agree? You must agree with me. This is our philosophy. Now, you might say, yeah, but that's heavy and you have to get real. Not everybody can do that. And that's true. But it doesn't change the principle. Now, you find where you stand in that continuum. But the principle is there. The more you relish Krishna consciousness, the less you'll need of anything else. The happier you'll be, the less you will need. But when you're not happy, what do? Shop, eat, sleep. And what do you do again? Shop, eat, sleep, mate, defend. They have to, I think eating, Prabhupada said, the 4 animal propensities, Bhagavatam, Shastra says eating, sleeping, mating, defending. I think they need to add shopping to it as one of the, well, I guess they can't say it's an animal propensity because animals don't go shopping, but they do because animals are they're out looking for food all the time. So they are shopping. So let's make 5 just for fun because it's true. Animal propensities. What do you do when you're not relishing Krishna consciousness? You're eating, sleeping, mating, defending, and shopping. Or surfing. We'll go shopping / surfing online. Yes. Hare Krishna. So, Jai Bhakti Athena, all the way from Taipei, just flying over the digital waves. We have people from England and Lithuania and who knows where. It's just amazing. So let's read something because we weren't able to read. Anyway, I think one of let's just kind of sum up everything we've said, because if we read, we're actually going to go to a new topic. So let's sum this up. That Krishna is saying sense gratification ultimately is miserable. Even if you get pleasure, it ends in misery. And misery isn't consciousness. You could be enjoying something, but your consciousness could be suffering. So there's not this straight line between sense gratification and happiness. That's the mistake people make. They think, if you get sense gratification, you get happiness. If you get pleasure, you get happiness. It doesn't work that way. You might, and you might not. Just because you get sense gratification doesn't guarantee you won't suffer. Can we give an example? Right? I think the best example, and I've given this before, and you'll have to excuse me because it's maybe not, I can't think of another example that explains this better. Maybe you can offer one after you hear my example. But as we were saying, nowadays, men and women cheat on one another, right? So if you have a good relationship with your wife or husband, but somehow you become attracted to another man or woman, it's just like a recreational attraction, and then you engage in sex with them. There's physical enjoyment, but what's going on inside, there's a lot of guilt, because your wife and kids are at home waiting for you to come home and have a meal with them and say goodnight, and you've called up and saying, I have to stay late for a business meeting. And what you're doing is you're going home to this lady's house and you're going to have sex with her. Or we should say illicit sex, just to be clear. And can a man really enjoy that? Because in his heart, his consciousness, he knows it's wrong, it's bad, he knows his family's waiting for him. So, okay, I thought of a better example. I never have to use this example again. And excuse me if... I don't like to use sexual examples because then it makes people think it... The problem... Bhagavatam talks about sex and detachment from it, but for some people, when you talk about sex and detachment from it and the miseries of it, it makes them think about it because you brought it up. So that's why I didn't want to use this example. But in any case, a better example is your mother just died. And the day your mother died was the day your new car is being delivered. So they call you up and you get to drive your new Mercedes with heated seats and adjusting the back and this and that, like the most comfortable sitting and riding car you've ever had, and you're driving that to the funeral. So does the comfort make you happy? Of course it doesn't make you happy. So comfort and sensual pleasure does not equal happiness in every situation. Not even, Krishna's saying it's going to result in misery, but what I'm saying is sometimes it never results in happiness in the first place. So that's important to understand. If you think you're going to be happy through sense gratification, Krishna says you're not intelligent, you didn't get it, you haven't got it yet, it's not the way it is. And nobody gets it. And that's the qualification of staying in the material world. And if you want to get out of the material world, you have to get this, because the material world's a trap. And the way out, param drishta nivartante, the way out is we have to become rasik Vaishnavas, where we're always relishing Krishna consciousness, we're always churning the ocean of Krishna consciousness. And how do you know if you're doing this well? The way you know is look at your life. Are you finding pleasure in things which you can't really directly engage in Krishna's service? Like, I'm doing something, I enjoy it, and I can engage it in Krishna's service a little bit, but to the extent that I'm doing it, it's kind of over the top. I can't engage it that much. Or am I doing something and I really can't engage it at all, but I'm trying to figure out how to engage it, but I really can't. It doesn't engage. You have to look at that. So that would be an indication that I haven't got it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Simple points, but sometimes we forget the simple points. I can't guarantee that just by hearing this, that it will purify you entirely. But what I could guarantee is if you relish Krishna, the more you relish Krishna consciousness, the more you'll become detached and renounce without having to try. And then the more you will live this verse even without trying. Because by experience of Krishna consciousness, you understand everything else is like, let's say you take kirtan, right? What kirtan does for your heart, no music can. So you can hear a nice song, and I love this song, it's my favorite song, and you feel very good, but it can't do what kirtan does. So it can't compare. Like if you had to go to a planet and you had a choice, you can go to this planet where there's kirtan, and this planet, this is where all the great rock stars live, and they do live concerts every day. Where are you going to be happiest? Ultimately. Like, you'll go to that other planet and your heart won't be satisfied. Your heart will feel empty. That's the idea. Yes, just remember that sense gratification will leave your heart empty. It's just the way it works. Okay? So we've used up our time. We always allow a little time for questions and comments and challenges and corrections. So if you want to ask anything at this point. I know this topic it's a little basic, and I mentioned last week or the week before that we're dealing with this topic because we want to discuss it because we want to write a book and develop a workshop about happiness and how materialistic people, they haven't got it figured out. So we kind of want to discuss it and dissect it in different ways. And then after we dissect it, put it back together in a format, context, a package, so to speak, that will enable non-devotees to really understand why they're not happy, why they're dissatisfied, what the problem is, what's missing. Because even the happiness experts, they don't really understand it because they're not really getting it. They're not really getting it. And, when you don't come to bhakti, you don't get it. And that's what people are missing. So that's the idea. Okay? So we'll see you tomorrow. And then tomorrow we can read. I just wanted to discuss these verses, these antar verses, because I thought they're important. Okay? Is that all right? Are we happy? Now, your homework for today, or tonight, or whatever time it is for you, your homework is until tomorrow. What I would like you to do is relish Krishna consciousness. Just do what you need to do to relish, whether it's a service, as Radhika was saying, finding your dharma, doing something that inspires you. Or it's reading a little extra, chanting a little extra, or whatever inspires you, meeting with a devotee, discussing Krishna consciousness, whatever inspires you, just do a little more of it. And then we can check in tomorrow and see, based on what we talked about today, how that affected your life. Did it actually fill you up? Were you actually not so attracted by things you're normally attracted by? Were you not alert or thinking of things that distract you all the time? Did you spend less time surfing the internet? Did you spend less money? Whatever it is, like that. Okay? Sound like a good assignment? All right, so we'll see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna. And tomorrow should be exciting. I think the storm is coming tomorrow night. And so we'll have some exciting times here. Here in Alachua, I think we're all going to be fine. I think by the time the storm gets here, it'll just be 50 to 75 mile an hour winds. The hurricane has 150 to 185 mile an hour winds, which if you're outside in winds like that, I think it'll kind of blow you down the street. And if you're near water, it would probably kill you if the water's above your head. So don't worry about us. If you have to worry about us, I will let you know. I'll keep you updated. I'll say, pray for me. I'm leaving Alachua. Trinavarta is following us. I've renamed the hurricane Trinavarta. They call it Irma. I call it Trinavarta. But if it travels over land, it slows down. If it travels over sea, like if it came up the coast on the sea, and then it just turned inland, because we're like 60 miles from the sea and head straight for us, that would be a problem. But if it hits land, then either goes out to the sea or continues on land, then it slows down, and I think it's going to hit in South Florida. So we're 350 miles from where it's going to hit, or even further. So if it goes to the Keys, it's like almost 450. So it has to travel all that way, and so it'll lose its momentum, I think. Okay, is that all right? So thank you very much. Don't worry about me until I tell you to worry about me. You don't have to worry. I will send you, if you need to worry about me, I'll send you a message saying the hurricane's building up speed. We're getting out of here as fast as we can. It looks dangerous. Pray for me. But at this point, you can pray for me, but you don't have to pray for me to not be damaged by the hurricane, because I think it's okay. Yesterday, everything on our property, we had chairs outside and tables and shovels and hose. Everything had to go inside, and we locked it in our shed because it could fly, and we have big trash cans to pour water in because we probably won't have electricity for a few days. And fortunately the weather's cooled down, so to not have AC is tolerable. And we might run out of, if we don't have connections, then we have to see if the libraries or something have, and we can charge our phones. Otherwise, digital connections we're going to run out of. So if you write me and I don't write back, just know I still love you, but I probably don't have it. I ran out of battery power, so I have to probably choose the most urgent things to write back and deal with to keep my digital devices charged, if that's okay. Yeah, we're used to hurricanes. But in South Florida, that's where it's really bad. They're going to get hit really hard. And the freeways are like 20 miles an hour. I think maybe 650,000 people are evacuating. The government has ordered certain counties, you have to leave. And in the beach near us, which is about 80 miles away, Jacksonville, they've ordered them to evacuate. And in Alachua, if you don't have a home which was built, but rather built on the site, they have mobile homes which are brought in on trucks and put down. And they're metal bodies and metal roofs, and they say that if you have a mobile home, you've been ordered to evacuate. So the office I'm in right now, it's actually a shed that was insulated, and it has a metal roof, And I think in 75-mile-an-hour winds, we should be okay. It's rooted to the ground, so we should be all right. 100, 150, I don't know. That's kind of scary. But hopefully the roof will be here on Tuesday, and we should be okay. I don't. If it's a tropical storm and not a hurricane, then we don't have to worry. Okay? So, Hare Krishna to you all, and I'm sure we'll be okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, and thank you for all your blessings. Hare Krishna.